What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Accidental Isolation, where I like to bring on a guest to speak about a moment in their lives where they may have found themselves isolated, whether that be mentally, physically, or emotionally. I bring this platform to everyone so that we can see how common it is to fall into these isolations and let everyone know that you're not alone. Everyone goes through them, everyone deals with them, and I'm just here to help bring on guests to speak about their isolation so that you'll be able to put tools in your toolbox of life. Today we got Mekhi Hill on the show. We met at an exclusive event here in Charlotte, North Carolina. He was one of the mental health panelists, and he was talking and he was explaining his story a little bit, going through the forum, and I just couldn't help but get intrigued. So me and him networked a little bit after, and now I got him on the show, man. What's up? How you doing?
Chauncey, what's up, brother? It's a pleasure to be here, man. I appreciate you for having me on here, bro. I'm excited, looking forward to see where the conversation goes today.
Yes, sir, man. I'm so excited for this conversation. Me and him, we spoke, and he's in the mental health field as well. I let him dive more into that, and we were just excited to see someone that looks like us in this field, and it was so exciting. And like me and him talked a little bit. So once I knew I could get him on the show, I was so excited, man. It was like he said, excited to see where this conversation is going to go, and excited to see what kind of tools he has for you guys. So let's go ahead and get started and let the viewers know a little bit about you, right?
Yeah,
Let
for
them know where
sure.
you're from, a little bit background information.
Like Chauncey said, I am Mekhi Hill, originally from Sicklerville, New Jersey, but currently based in Atlanta, Georgia right now. I'm a graduate of North Carolina A&T State University, where I did my undergraduate degree. I just finished up my master's of public health program at Emory University, the Rollins School of Public Health, which is based in Atlanta, Georgia. Currently working with the PBS NewsHour.
Oh yeah.
So I made a little transition, man, but hopefully looking to see how all things kind of intersect. At the moment, I come from a single parent household. It's not by choice.
Yeah.
My mother passed away, so unfortunately, that's kind of how we got to that point.
Hmm.
I got two siblings, a little sister, older brother. You know what I'm saying? Also, as Chauncey mentioned, I was here a month ago leading a mental health forum. I operate a nonprofit called the Better Days Project, which empowers and uplifts BIPOC communities, where we raise a lot of mental health awareness and also provide individuals within the community with mental health resources. So
Oh yeah.
that's a little bit about me in a nutshell, man. So,
Man, that's exciting, man. Like I said, when I met him and I was like, and we spoke just a little bit. Like he was on a panelist, so I listened to his story, and I also observed how he was able to control the room in this mental health forum. And as a black man, it was good to see. Like oftentimes we see a certain type of person or a certain demographic up there, and it was good to see him control and lead the room into some vulnerable conversations in that moment. Like we were in a room full of strangers, and he allowed us to do certain exercises that allowed us to be vulnerable and open up and just kind of share our stories there almost. So yeah, the show, man, accidental isolation. Um, Me and him spoke beforehand, and he knows what that means and what it looks like. So let's dive into that. Let's talk about one or any of the isolations that you may have went through.
yeah, I would say a lot of us kind of went through this similar isolation,
Uh-huh.
bro. During the pandemic, I think that was the prime period in my life where I was in isolation and really in deep solitude. I think during that time in the pandemic, it was very unknown for a lot of us. We really didn't know what was going on. Life, what we kind of expected it, that's not what was going on, and it kind of was a culture shock, to a lot of us. So we really had to sit with ourselves for some time, for months. I think during that period in isolation, God really brought me to my knees about a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
and it was very beneficial for my growth, and it was needed as well. And I don't think that I'd be where I'm at today if it wasn't for that period of isolation. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Yes, this is accidental isolation, but I do think that that time in isolation was definitely intentional,
Mm-hmm.
and it was great and needed for me because I was moving wild at that time, and I ain't gonna lie, I think I was kind of really out of alignment
Mm-hmm.
mentally, physically, spiritually. So during that time in solitude during the pandemic, it really gave me the opportunity to address some of my traumas, address some of my wrongdoings, address a lot of my unhealthy habits,
Yeah.
and really make amends with that. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Like I'm still working through things kind of as I go, and it's a ongoing process. But I think the pandemic was really when I got a foundation and a grip on everything. Coming into it, I was in college. I studied criminal justice. I
Did you graduate in 2020?
Nah, I graduated 2021, which
Okay.
it still was. We still were kind of dealing with COVID complications a little bit. I wasn't going to class in person. But during really that time, bro, like, it benefited me. So my plans, what I was trying to do, it kind of took a 180. Like I was saying, I was trying to go to law school. I realized during the pandemic, my heart really wasn't in it. I'm very passionate about law and policy and advocating for communities, but I realized there was another way to really execute that.
Yeah.
During the pandemic, I really started to tap more into my health, a lot more, which is, I realized mental health was a passion for me, and I really realized how that intersects with our everyday lives.
Yeah.
I didn't really want to take the necessary therapy route. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that's more like individualistic. So I went into public health, which is more broad, that focuses on community. So working on the health of Black and brown communities, we don't really have a lot of education around mental health or health in general. You know what I'm saying? So after doing my research, bro, like really kind of doing a lot of deep diving, that period during COVID, I received some of the most major blessings that I've ever received. So that time in isolation for me, bro, I think it humbled me. It got me back on the right track. And I think God used that time to really transform me, allow me to cut off a lot of dead weight, things that were really holding me back from growing. And during that period, I've seen myself, I'm unrecognizable to me. You know what I'm saying? How I was a few years ago. So it looks kind of totally different. And I needed that time in isolation, bro, to really like propel myself and see where God was calling me and how he wanted to use me.
Yeah. Nah, you said a lot just now, man. I love it. And a lot to break down and a lot to like understand in there. Like first I want to start with just so accidental isolation, right? It is like he said it, like the isolation part, sometimes it has like a negative connotation. And the reason why this platform is so big is because like when we speak about these isolations, most of the time, if not all, there's growth on the other side.
Absolutely.
So although the isolation might be painful or it might not be painful, right? But whatever you're going through the isolation, majority of the time it's growth on that other side. And I've said a few times on the show as well, and I also, condolences to all the people lost during COVID, because COVID, all in all, was not a good thing. But there's good you can take out of any situation. And like he said in the beginning, we all went through this isolation sort of at that point. And COVID allowed people to have to sit with themselves. I can speak from I sometimes run away from certain issues. Like how I do that is I get busy. I do 3, 4, 5 different things, so I don't have time to sit with that moment. And during COVID, like you didn't really have that opportunity to do so much because you stuck in the house and you have to sit with those emotions.
You gotta address it. And I'm similar, bro. Like you said, like I definitely used to run, bro. Like I definitely used to run away from it. And COVID really made you sit with it, address it, feel it, go through it. You know what I'm saying? But it gave you that chance to pick yourself back up.
Yeah.
So, which is why it was a blessing in disguise, bro. Like, honestly. So, I think COVID was very beneficial if you took advantage of it.
The catchphrase of the show is putting tools in the toolbox of life. And the reason why I use tools, some people have questioned me before, and I love to question me. Why do I use the words tools? Because that's like saying you're fixing something, and you can't necessarily fix the mental health issues necessarily. And the reason why I use tools is because we work through them. And you can use one tool for 100 different jobs, and sometimes there's tools that you only can use for a specific job. But nevertheless, the building or whatever you're trying to fix or create does not get done until you do the work. So that's why I put tools in your toolbox. So I'm giving you tools that you can use, but at the end of the day, you have to do the work. And a lot of times when we run, when we avoid certain conversations or avoid certain feelings, we're not doing that work, although we may think so, right? A lot of times, like what I do is the mental health, yoga, right? Everything I do that I use to get busy are positive things, right? And they help other people. But at the end of the day, like, what about self? What about I, right? So I'm doing such great things, and I use that to kind of manipulate my brain. Like, oh yeah, we're doing so good, bro. Like you're helping people. We got this platform, right? We're mental health forums. We're doing all these things, but I'm not sitting with myself, right? And I'm speaking to these people with the knowledge I've learned of life and experiences, but I can't necessarily speak from the truth and integrity of where I'm at now because it's kind of like a facade, right? Because I know how to put it on. Like I know the information to help these people. I know what I can say to get people through it, but I'm not myself, and people learn best through that personal experience.
Nah, that's facts that you just kind of said that, because I was thinking about that on my way up here. Is like we show up for other people in this mental health space, but sometimes we kind of neglect our own mental health through the journey and through us being of service to others. But also, you know, we gotta stay grounded and remember that we also gotta serve ourselves before we can serve other people. So I don't know, that was just kind of just a piggyback off of what you just said.
You can't pour out of an empty glass. You can't pour out of an empty glass. Like you gotta fill yourself up. And I'm so glad, like I'm so excited for this conversation because we are two like-minded men in the mental health field. So like for him to say, oh man, that makes so much sense. Like I'm excited because like now I can learn as well, right? Because I'm no different than anyone else. Like I go through isolations and I have moments where I feel mentally, physically, or you know, emotionally isolated from someone. So now it's my opportunity to learn as well, just like I learned from every other guest on the show, man. So yeah, I'm excited to dive into this. So you go to A&T and you go to study criminal justice. That's something we have in common. We both studied criminal justice. I wanted to take the investigator route at first. I know you said you want to do like the law route. I thought about being a lawyer, but then I also thought about the school it took to be.
Bro, that's a little
so I
different.
thought, I said, nah.
The thing is, I took the LSAT during the pandemic, bro.
Oh man, so you was ready to do
it. Yeah, my heart wasn't in it. Your heart really got to be in it, bro. Your heart has to be in that.
Especially going through COVID and just like what was going on in the world at the time. Like for me to go be a police officer, which I respect. I have friends. I have tons of friends, right, that are in it and family members. So I respect the field 100%. But for me, I just knew at that moment it's not the time for me to go that route. And then also football came along and kind of, you know, took me on a different path.
Absolutely.
And from there, I had to figure out what I wanted to do. The biggest thing when I was in school, we were liberal arts, so we wrote a lot of papers. I wrote a lot on community policing, right? So I'm big on the community and how can we uplift, how can we help the community, and not just the black community, communities of all likes, right? So yeah, that's how I did it, and I had to do something similar and figure out how can I affect the community, how can I help the community. So let's go into like where that transition kind of moved for you.
Yeah, bro. So I think I originally studied criminal justice because my dad, he worked for the federal government.
Okay.
So I kind of already was exposed to a similar lifestyle and what that type of work looks like. I didn't really necessarily want to do exactly what my father does, but I would say that's kind of like a form of isolation that I may go through too. You know what I'm saying? Like that connection with your parent and them not almost understanding you as a person sometimes. But so we got COVID 2020, took the LSAT, was like, heart really wasn't in it. I was kind of going that trajectory. I did an internship my senior year with the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. Shout out to them. I owe a lot to them for my
Who are they? Or like what do they do?
So they're a public policy nonprofit organization that is advocating for black policy leaders.
Okay.
So it's a program that kind of connects black and brown students from all over, some of the top in the nation, that are interested in learning more about politics, legislation, and things of that nature. Yeah. So they kind of connect you with and put you in the office of a congressperson within your state. And that really, I would say, catapulted my career professionally. During that internship, I really learned a lot about legislation, policy, how to develop and advance policies, what really goes into that. And I realized throughout that process that I can make the same amount of impact, if not more, in policy than having to go to law school. And, you know, there's other ways to kind of make that same impact that you want to do. I specifically wanted to focus on health policy, which ties into mental health, which is why I went and got my master's in public health. And, you know, that really pushed the needle for me as far as like just opening up my eyes for other opportunities that were out there.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to really put myself in a box because
Never.
sometimes
Yeah.
society can make you consume to certain things that's not really you. So I had the opportunity to explore that, meet great people, learn from their experiences as well. And, you know, I'm very grateful for the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation and my development, and you know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah, no, that's dope. And I'm glad you said that, like, learn from their experience.
yeah.
Like, once again, like, that's why this platform is here. Like, I truly believe, like, when I read or when I do anything, like, it's all philosophy or biographies. Like, when I talk to people, I have conversations, like, with people, because, like, you could take this back. Like, there's no science to back this, but I'm almost guaranteed, like, you take this back to day one, like, how we learn anything is through stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
Through experiences. Like, that's the best way. Like, you can read as many books and get as much information or facts as you want, but for you to be able to apply what you've learned, like, it's going to be through experience and through stories. So, like, I'm glad you were able to, like, learn through these people, and as well as, like, the greatest experience you've had was with your dad because he was in the government. So that's probably why you were thinking, like, this is where I want to go, because, like, this is all I know.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And the exposure equals expansion.
Yeah.
So for you to be able to expose yourself to this new walk of life, right? You were able to expand, like, what you may like and what you do like.
Yeah, I owe a lot of that to my father, for sure.
Yeah.
So those are one of the many great things that I admire and, like, love about my dad, is that he gave our family an opportunity to see the world at such a young age and experience many different cultures through our jobs. So we've lived in, like, Jamaica, Hawaii, Memphis. I've also lived in Pennsylvania. My father lived in Africa. So just having that worldly view and perspective on life has really enhanced me as an adult, and, like, my upbringing and the way that I view the world. So I'm thankful for him for that. No doubt about it. And, like, just the sacrifices that he's made for my brother and I after my mom passed away. You know, it has been great. So.
No, I can attest to that. I was able to live through my stepmom and my dad. Like, I was able to live out in Spain. I was able to live
So
in
you
England.
know, bro, yeah.
So it's like when you, like, exposure, like when you're exposed to new things, and it's nothing bad for the people who aren't necessarily exposed, or it's not like a negative thing, but when you are exposed to, like, new cultures, like new things, like, people have a way of living, everyone, because, like, that's what it's routine. Like, people have a way of living. So when you can have something like change that perspective, right? It might not necessarily change the way you live, but, like, now you can see other things. You can understand different people, right? And it's really cool, like, concept of living, just like perspective and seeing, like, other perspectives and shit.
Yeah, bro. It definitely was great. But within that, there does come isolation.
Most definitely.
Because, you know what I'm saying, there's been many instances where I've been in environments or cultures where I am the majority. But, you know what I'm saying, what happens when you're the minority?
Yeah.
And that happened a lot while moving around. And, you know what I'm saying, sometimes you can feel like you are in isolation. You know what I'm saying? Because there aren't a lot of people that look like you. There aren't people that understand you.
Yeah.
And there are people that may treat you different just by how you look. And
look,
because
what
you're not
you
from
wear,
there.
which is
You
how
know,
you talk,
so
everything. Yeah. Now, it's in even through that, like, that's where some of that experience comes through.
Absolutely.
Like, the
But it
experience
builds character, though. Yeah.
like, the experience
That's
isn't
a part
just
of the
good
experience,
stuff
you know what
that
I'm saying? Yeah.
we got to live out the country. Like, yeah, that's amazing, because a lot of people don't leave their city, state, or the country. But, like, yeah, like, we still was experiencing different things. Like,
Exactly.
most of the time, so when I was in Spain, I was on a base.
Okay.
So it was a little more familiar because I'm around Americans. England, we didn't live on a base, so now I'm around everything, but we speak the same language, so it's a little
Right.
different. But they still have whole different values. They still do different things, and so it's like, yeah, like that experience alone allows you to see, and it almost humbles you a little bit too, because it's like it teaches you, like, to sit back first, like, to be
It gives you
aware of your
perspective, bro.
surroundings.
Like, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, everything, there's life outside of where you're from. Or, you know what I'm saying? Or the current state that you live in. You know what I'm saying? Things are a lot more macro. They're way bigger than what you think it is. So it is a huge culture
Yeah.
shock, but it's like it's helped me adapt, bro. Like to any situation or any environment, I can interact with anyone, literally from
Anybody.
all walks of life, and really like fit in
Yeah.
with that. So I think it's benefited me and helped me a lot in my adulthood and just growing up. Period. So
Exactly. All right, man. So let's dive back into this isolation of yours during COVID time. So we got the good news, right? Like we were able to see this transition and see that there's more than what I've thought. But let's kind of dive back into the isolation aspect of when COVID happened. You were speaking about how you're unrecognizable to yourself now, right? So like what was going on pre-COVID or pre-isolation to where you feel like, or what happened? What started that change besides just, oh, we're COVID, we're at home now? Like what started to create the who am I, what am I doing? I don't really like the person I am, or maybe I don't not like the person, but like what started that?
yeah. So I mean, transparently, bro, I think it got to a point in college. I played sports all my life.
Uh-huh.
I played sports up until freshman year of college.
Okay.
I would have loved to have played college football.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I tried out for A&T's football team. My necessary plan wasn't to be a college athlete.
Yeah.
But it was like, this is something that I love, so I want to see if I can do it. You know what I'm saying? Let's see how things work out. I tried out, things didn't work out in my favor. So kind of after that is when things, I would say, kind of went downhill.
Mm-hmm.
I really wasn't. I've always been active. Always been somebody that's like working out because of sports. So when you don't really have that motivation from a sport pushing you to kind of do things, you kind of lose yourself. So it's
Yeah.
like, all right, now I'm trying to figure out who Mekhi is outside of football, because for so long that was kind of my identity in a sense. Like being a student athlete was my
Yeah.
identity. So now the athlete part isn't attached. So now it's strictly just Mekhi the student. So throughout college, I really had to kind of recreate myself and really figure out who Mekhi is at his core, because yes, I was an athlete, but I'm so much more.
Yeah.
And throughout that time, bro, I didn't lose. I gained a lot of weight.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? Was drinking excessively. And then it kind of got to a point where I was smoking too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
You was
saying?
partying. You was
Yeah,
college
I
partying.
was listen, I was having my freedom in college. I was overindulgent in a lot of things, and
Yeah.
that really started to consume my energy. Honestly, bro, and it was like trying to understand, where do a lot of these habits come from.
Mm-hmm.
So we get to right before COVID hits. I think this might be the semester before. This is 2020. Yeah, 2020 semester is hitting, and I'm like, my best friend from freshman year, he moves.
Okay.
I just got out of a relationship,
Uh-huh.
so I'm kind of like down. Like I really wasn't coming out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because the closest people that I was with, they weren't really around.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like I was in accidental isolation.
Yeah.
In my dorm a lot. I was going to class, working, and coming back. I was doing very minimal partying, very minimal hanging out, but I was still kind of indulged in these bad habits.
Yeah.
It got to a point during COVID where I had to find other ways to get out of this funk, and I realized that something was wrong. I didn't really know what depression might have looked like, what anxiety had looked like, but it's really overeating, either lack of sleep or sleeping way too much, gaining weight,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, and just the sense of like your energy just being heavy.
And
You know what I'm
drained.
saying? I just felt heavy. And a lot of that stems from, you know what I'm saying, stuff that kind of happened in my upbringing.
Yeah.
But it didn't really catch up with me until now. Or I'll deal with issues of not really knowing how to communicate my feelings and emotions effectively to women that I was involved with at the time, and that kind of ruined relationships that I was trying to build, necessarily because I didn't have that initial grip on myself. So trying to work through anxiety, depression, prime COVID, dealing with a little bit of PTSD too, because we're seeing the deaths, the COVID deaths,
Yeah. In numbers.
on numbers. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? We're also seeing the social justice movement, George
Yeah.
Floyd. So that really does something to your mental and your psyche, bro. So it's like there were times as well where I'm having intrusive thoughts, and it kind of just got overbearing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So I had to like really figure out the root cause of a lot of it.
Yeah.
And what helped me with this was I started to tap more into my creative side of things. I'm a huge advocate for music.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love music. So really starting to explore that, you know what I'm saying? Like, music is a way that I kind of cope with a lot of things, and I spend some time in solitude to kind of gather my thoughts and my feelings. So I started making a playlist with my friend.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like the initial introduction for like taking my pain and channeling it into something else.
Yeah.
And like seeing the power of creating, honestly, bro. So like taking certain emotions that I was feeling, tying it to certain songs that I like, and just watching the playlist kind of come together based off of an emotion that I was
build
feeling.
that energy up.
You know what I'm saying? So a lot of it, that process showed me that I can get out of funks by utilizing certain tools that I may have, or, you know, it helps me gain more awareness of. But I also pay a lot of credit to the people that I was around as well.
Your community.
Yes.
So important. Yeah.
Because some of them might have been on their mental health journey way before me, and they could see certain flaws or certain things that I kind of was going through. So I owe a lot of that to my friends for kind of noticing things
And being there,
within me.
paying attention, being
paying
around,
attention, talking to me.
listening.
You know what I'm saying? I spent the summer in D.C. I did a law program at Howard. That my sophomore year of college, and I think like that helped me a lot too.
Yeah.
One of my friends
New
really,
environment.
yeah, one of my friends, you know, we got really close, and she kind of really like helped me learn more about tools that I could use to take my pain and channel it into something else, and just really trying to get more comfortable with expressing myself and talking about my emotions.
So when you started to notice, like, you know, you started gaining weight, you started doing these habits, right? And like the first step, like in any step to anything, right? You started to be aware of like, okay, man, like the weight gain, that's a little more obvious. Like you can
Yeah.
see that physically. But a lot of times, like alcohol, drugs, things like that, like those could be viewed on as common or okay, as long as we're not abusing those things, right? And a lot of times it does kind of creep into abuse, and you don't necessarily notice it because maybe the peers around you, or we're in college.
Yeah,
I mean, let's be
it's
honest.
normalized,
It's
so.
normalized. So it's like
But little do we know, there are a lot of people in college that are fighting real life demons,
addictions. Yeah, like
and
really.
it looks just like that.
If that's everyone in your circle, no one can be aware of
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
So for you to be able to, or what kind of started your awareness? Because that was the first step. Like you mentioned, how you were able to, like, your community around you, right? They were able to uplift you, but before they even were able to see anything, or before they were able to notice it, like how did you become aware of like what was going on? Like when you knew something needed to change.
Yeah, I think my hurt was impacting other people.
Okay.
I think that's when
When you
was
seen it,
when you
seen
see
what
it
you were doing.
firsthand. But it was like you're not intentionally trying to cause harm to other people, but it's just like because of the state that you're in at that moment, you're inflicting some of your pain onto other people.
Yeah.
I mean, I realized that's when I was like, okay, there's something going on, and there's a huge deeper issue, you know what I'm saying, that I need to get to the root of. And throughout my journey, I kind of just fell in love with it, bro, and want to keep exploring and help other people as well.
That's the beautiful thing, like falling in love with like building yourself. Like another thing COVID brought out was the fact that we're isolated and people were able to see
Yeah.
Like before COVID, like there's a lot of phrases, right, or a lot of cliches, or just a lot of things that people wasn't aware of. Like I was one that didn't really know what anxiety was. I just thought anxiety was panic attacks and things like that, and I didn't learn it through COVID. But that's just an example of COVID being able to bring light to this
issues, yeah.
because now everyone's at home. And then you have these creatives and you have these people just out there talking. Now they're talking about their feelings because let's say they're like a comedian or they're like someone, a happy person, a happy creative, and they always need to be around people to be that creative person. Now they aren't there. So now what do they have? They have this huge platform. What are they going to use it for? And a lot of people with this platform started to speak about mental health.
Yeah.
And it's like some people like, oh man, now everyone feel like they have a mental health issue because of COVID. Like some people like look down on that. But the reality is there are a lot of people out here with mental health issues, like anxieties, depressions, and sadness. And not even like, it doesn't even have to be the end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to be there to realize you're going through things because everyone literally goes through it. And like COVID literally brought that out. Like it brought it to awareness and it brought people to realize like what these things are. And then it gave them also, it gave you two things. It gave you the opportunity to know what these things are, and it gave people opportunity to actually sit in those and start doing the research and start doing the things. And for someone like you to say, man, I noticed how I was affecting people around me, people I cared about, and I knew I needed to do some work, and then I fell in love with that, right? So let's go deeper into like you falling in love with the process of working. I know you mentioned like music was the biggest thing. Like we're energetic bodies.
Yeah.
And you started to realize that the energy I have is heavy, is dark, is cloudy. How can I create better, brighter energy with music? How did you start to create that energy and start to change your habits that you had into new habits?
Yeah, for sure, bro. I think it, like I said, it started with the playlist. Started making a series of playlists with one of my friends who mentioned kind of gave me that initial awareness in a sense too. Like she was one of them that
she told you, hey bro, hey, get your shit together.
Yeah,
she said, get your shit together, man.
So I'm thankful for people like that, her as well as others in my community that really just keep it real with me and have my best interests at heart. So I would say from the creation of those playlists, that kind of turned into making clothes.
Okay.
So I was making clothes with my line brother, and we also started up the nonprofit kind of at the same time. We realized that this was a huge issue in our community before a lot of things kind of like pandemic brought a lot of light to mental health. Like this was like right before it started this. So started with clothes, realizing how that was a really expressive outlet and a tool for me to really just be free, be expressive, and create through that medium. It helped my mental health a lot. It helped me to dive into really mental health more and figure out other effective ways to create and bring products to life that also help other people kind of tell their story through that as well. So I would say that, and then working with the nonprofit. I don't think I really like kind of tapped into the nonprofit as seriously as I did until I moved to Atlanta. But that's been a huge blessing for me. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's a part of who I am. Yeah. It's kind of made me. And this entrepreneurship journey is not easy, but
hey, look,
you know, it's about the process and the journey and what you learn about yourself through it. So I think I've been able to really do that and hone in on that through these different creative mediums that I have.
Yeah. So. Well, let's get into that clothing brand. You can go ahead and drop it. Well, first of all, let's drop the clothing brand first.
Oh yeah, y'all tap in with the Sad Boy Saga, man.
Yeah.
Tap in with my LB Ty Da Vinci as well.
Yeah. So you started making clothes, and like you said, like being able to create and just get things out of you sometimes, like being able to put things, whether that's painting, drawing, writing, journaling,
release,
music, like having that release to be able to not have to hold things in is a great tool to just be free. Like start stripping things off of you, start taking that heavy weight off of you.
And that's kind of where things really started, when I realized that I don't have to hold on to that, to everything. There's other ways to release, and we can do that through creating.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We're all creators. We all have something, a God-given gift within inside of us. It's kind of up to us to get to a point where either something happens that we start to do the internal work, and we have to bring it out of us. But we all have something already set inside of us. It's just waiting on us to bring it out of us.
Man, I literally
So-
said that the other day. Like every creature on this earth is a creator.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right, and it looks completely different.
Different to
Like
everyone,
we
yeah.
have the name creator now, which is like social media influencers, but it goes so far beyond that. Like it goes so far beyond that. Like women literally create life, right? Like just like people are creators, and like you said, like to be able to realize that I don't have to hold on to all this stuff. Like life happens to everyone, right? We have loss of family and friends. Like we have loss of money. We have life happens to everybody. And the moment you realize that, one, allow that to happen, well, not allow it, but it's gonna happen regardless. So notice that happening. Notice things going on. Like more stuff is being thrown on you. Now you're getting heavier. The moment you realize that you're okay, it's okay to just like remove it. Right, share with your community. Like allow people inside sometimes. Right, a lot of times, allow people inside to help you remove some of that stuff. And then, like you said, being able to create. Like every creative doesn't have to like monetize. Right, like making playlists. I'm sure you didn't make nothing of that. Like, but that was something fun.
Yeah, exactly.
That was something.
It's something that I'm passionate about.
Exactly, something when you're going through things, like something that'll put a smile on your face. I look at children a lot. I used to work at a YMCA like 3-4 years, and like I love children. I don't have any. Don't really. I'm gonna wait for I have any. You know what I mean? So, but like in general, I just love children because like you see the joy and you see the effortless joy. They don't have to work to do things,
That
right?
youth.
The playfulness in
Yeah.
them. Like, one thing about me, my friends used to get on me all the time because I was like, bro, you goofy, you joke too much. And it's like, I used to always tell them, and like, this was before I was aware of what I was really saying, but I was like, no, I'm going to always be childish. And then as I matured and realized, it's like, it's not about being childish, but I had to grow up and realize that I'm going to always be childlike.
Absolutely.
Having effortless fun, being around people who allow you to be effortlessly, right?
Yeah, bro.
Doing things that allow you to have effortless fun outlet, because life is going to happen, especially as adults. Like life is going to happen, right? So if you have some type of release, some type of creativity you could do, some type of friends you can be with, anything, like that allows you to just take off some of that stuff.
Yeah, I'm glad that you really brought that up, because a lot of the creative endeavors that I've kind of been a part of as of recently, it allows me to really be youthful.
Yeah.
And it makes me come alive. You know what I'm saying? I think that's like very important throughout our journey, because as I mentioned earlier, like without having sports, you know, you kind of get lost. So it's like I had to find what makes me come alive again, what makes me youthful. So
Going back to COVID a little bit, so many people had something stripped away from them that they had for so long, and it was the structure,
okay,
right?
yeah.
High school, elementary school, middle school, you have your schedule, you know where you're going to be at, you know who you're going to be with, you know what time you got to be there. When COVID happened, a lot of times people who either just graduated, like me in 2020, right, people who are just getting into college, or sophomore, juniors, or almost seniors, like they're no longer going to school. They're no longer going to class. Like the structure that we so had is now broken, right? People with jobs, right? Entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
The structure was now broken. And this is something we've always had. Like, even if you're not a super structural person or someone who needs to be on a tight schedule, you still have some type of loose form of structure. And during COVID, that was gone. And that's where a lot of isolations also started, because you no longer have something that you've always had. So with you now not having football, and I'm not an athlete anymore, we start going through school, and we're you mentioned you pledged,
I crossed spring 2019.
and you stopped playing football after your freshman year, right?
Yeah.
So you wanted to start seeking a community. You wanted to seek a brotherhood, right? But you wanted to seek people of like minds, people who want to help build up yourselves. So you were looking for a creative release, right? You and your friend, y'all started the clothing brand. You also mentioned that you guys also started a nonprofit as well.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about that. Like, so what is a nonprofit called? I know you talked about what it does, right? So what's it called, and like how that start?
Gotcha. Yeah, so the Better Days Project, man, it's founded 2020. It's my baby. I think I put a lot of time and energy into it.
Oh yeah.
Money too.
Yeah.
For it to be a nonprofit, you know what I'm saying? A lot of the work that I do is voluntary, so your heart really does have to be in it. I think, bro, during that time, I was able to see how not only myself and those around me, but also my peers, my family, close friends were all dealing with similar mental and emotional health struggles as myself. I realized that there wasn't really a lot of education or resources around mental health, and there wasn't really any platforms or like non-profits that were really like trailblazers
Yeah.
in this space that were around me.
Yeah.
Not to say that
And
there aren't any,
key.
but that
That's
are
key,
around
like,
me.
that I'm aware of, that I
Exactly.
noticed, that I can be exposed to.
Exactly. And also, bro, seeing how it really, mental health is impacting our youth and how mental health impacted me as a kid. So realizing that, and also realizing that growing up in school after my mother passed away, I was dealing with stuff, but really wasn't aware of what I was dealing with. You know, I'm sure a lot of black men have experienced that growing up, like teachers complaining, saying that they're acting out or lashing out, but little do they know there's other things kind of going on. But I say that to say there wasn't any resources or things available in school for me to help with that, to help better my mental health. So coming to an understanding and realization that if I had these tools, if I was aware of what mental health was at a young age, I would be dominant a lot earlier. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of like was the motivation behind launching the Better Days Project. Since then, we've became registered in the state of North Carolina as well as Georgia. We operate as a 501c3, which means that we're tax exempt, so we can receive grants and funding.
Oh yeah.
So it's been growing, and we're really working to expand a lot. We have a supplemental mental health education program called One Day at a Time.
Okay.
So we have partnerships with different Title I schools in the inner city of Atlanta. So we host a lot of workshops. We come in there, similar to the forum and event that you attended, you know what I'm saying? But we kind of dive a little bit deeper into real life situations. And we really just connect with the young men as well as young women in the Atlanta community. And also within that, I really started to dive a little bit more into my creative side of things. Another one of our programs is more of, I would say, our advocacy program. It's called Real Convos, Better People, which is a YouTube series where we explore the many different facets of mental health by bringing on different community leaders. We just really unpack mental health in so many different ways through so many different people, because it looks differently to other people. So we kind of bring on leaders that are influential, people that I look up to as well, that are kind of really just doing a lot of great things in their industry as well. And then just kind of just typical community service work that we do. We're really growing, trying to expand as much as possible, hopefully trying to start making a footprint of live in-person events in the community, to really have community conversations with political leaders in the city as well. So, you know, things are going pretty good, bro. Hopefully we can grow it into a national nonprofit one day.
No. Hopefully they will not. They will. They will grow into a national nonprofit one day, just because of who you are, and I'm sure who the people you've entrusted to be on that team. Like, there's no hope. Like, you're doing the work. It'll be there. You have the connections.
Yeah.
And
I have
it'll be there. Yeah.
Some great support, man. Shout out to my brother Eric Kudo.
Yeah.
Shout out to my brother Keith Jones. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to everybody that's really just supported the movement so far, but specifically those two, you know what I'm saying? They've been holding things down a lot for me in Atlanta as well. So
that's good, man. So when you mentioned you started the clothing brand and then you also started the nonprofit, you said you started going crazy with the clothing brand, but then the nonprofit in 2020 kind of took a dip, right? What was going on through that, or I know you said you put a lot of finances in it too as well.
Yeah,
and for
no,
a college kid.
I wouldn't really say it took a dip. I
Okay.
think I kind of just put more of my focus into that instead of the clothes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah, all right, okay, bet.
what it
That's
was.
good.
Yeah.
We were speaking earlier, and you mentioned that there were a few isolations you've went through, and a few you wanted to speak on about today. And you mentioned the first one was COVID, and that was like the hefty one. That was the
That
one
was
that kind of
heavy.
started
Yeah.
the transformation, and started the awareness and started the moving forward. So you started to mention how you were going through isolation now. What does that look like?
Yeah, bro. So I think since that COVID time period, I've went through multiple isolations.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
necessarily to say that they're bad, but I just realized when I'm not my best self if I'm out of alignment. Me being in solitude, me being in isolation, intentionally gives me that opportunity to work towards getting back in alignment and really see, okay, I have to analyze what's around me at the moment. Who are the people that I kind of have in my life? What type of environments am I around? You know what I'm saying? Like, what type of energy am I consuming? And I think that's where the isolation that I'm in now kind of benefits me and helps me really, like, sit back and reflect. I've been doing a lot of shadow work, which is kind of important because I just graduated from my master's, so I'm going through a huge life transition.
Yeah. Break down what shadow work is.
Shadow work is really, so we suppress a lot
Okay.
of things. We suppress a lot. As we mentioned earlier, we run from some of our problems. We run from some of our issues. So shadow work is really just addressing some of that trauma, some of those that pain, those issues that we have kind of just put in the back burner. So there's been a lot of times throughout my life where things will resurface, or there'll be certain seasons where things that I haven't dealt with, they'll resurface and they'll start to come to my mind. You know what I'm saying? It'll come to my thoughts as well. So when stuff like that starts to happen, or like I feel like my energy, I'm not my best self, I'm not where I need to be, I take time to myself to really be in solitude and isolate myself intentionally, you know what I'm saying? Just so I can get back in my groove and get back to get grounded, you know what I'm saying? So that's kind of where I'm at now. I just graduated 2 months ago, May.
Congratulations, man.
Yeah, appreciate that. So I just graduated in May with my master's. Just took on a new job. So life is starting to life a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Adulting is starting to hit, actually. You know, so it's like having to learn how to adapt. I can't do that if I'm out everywhere.
Yeah.
I can't do that if I have the wrong crowd around me or the wrong woman. So this isolation that I'm kind of in now is giving me that chance to get my priorities together and figure out what's important to Mekhi in this season of his life.
Yeah.
And it allows me to hear from God a lot more clearly and work on my discernment and really just seek that clarity and have that tunnel vision focus. So that's kind of where I'm at now, and really it helps me get more creative downloads too, if I'm being honest. So just taking this time to really just protect my energy and really analyze and become more aware of where I want to insert my energy in this phase of my life at the moment.
And that's important. And I'm glad that you're vulnerable enough to share how the isolation is now. Like I'm going through that, and this is what it looks like, right? So it looks different for everyone, and just like depression or anxiety, it looks different for everyone, and it's for him to be able to be in this isolation and be also, while in isolation, in awareness and understanding, like, I'm going to intentionally do this. Is incredible.
I know something is going on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I know I'm in a weird space.
Yeah.
But it's like, why am I in that space?
Now let me create space so I can
figure that out. And it's nothing against anyone.
No.
You know what I'm saying? But it just helps give you that clarity. 'Cause I'm very spiritual, bro, so I spend a lot of time with God. And during that time of isolation, I spend a lot of time with him, so I can hear God clearly, I can speak to him, and I can really know how to make my next move. So, you know what I'm saying? This isolation is very important to me, and it's intentional because I'm walking into a new phase of life. You know what I'm saying? And I think throughout these isolation periods, it's important and it's necessary because once it's over, you hit a breakthrough.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm at that breakthrough point,
Yeah.
which is why, there's a lot of change going on. When change starts to happen and things start to get a little rocky and those tests start to hit you, you're about to go through a breakthrough. And that's kind of like where I'm at in life right now. And the way that things are kind of just aligning so perfectly, I kind of understand, bro. It's like we have highs, we have lows. Like, I've built a level of mental fortitude to kind of really understand how life operates. You know what I'm saying? Which is why we talked about these tools. These tools are so important. So I know how to handle a lot of these situations, and I know what certain when I'm in these funks, I kind of understand why and what's happening.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So,
and you got a whole toolkit. Like, you got a whole toolbox. Like, you don't the way like what he does to work through this one may not work for the next one, or it may not have worked for the previous ones. But that's why we have this whole toolbox where you can grab whichever one you need. And like you said it, like life has highs and lows, right? There's always a push and a pull. Like there's always balance, right? In the object of life is to make all your highs higher and your lows even higher. Right? You don't ever want to dive all the way back down. And then once again, if you do, it's okay. Like that's why we have these tools, because if you've been there before, you can get it. You can get out of it. You can always work through it. You can work through it. It may take longer, right? It may whatever. Like you can build the same house 30 different times, and 30 different times a new problem occurs. Right, and that's okay, because this what you gonna figure it out either way, man. Right. Man, like I really appreciate you just like coming on the show and like being vulnerable and like explaining and telling your story, how your life was going, and like some of your ups and downs. As we wrap up, like I want the listeners to be able to gather some of your tools to put in their toolbox. So go ahead and share with us 3 or more tools that you would say helped you throughout your journey of life.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start with number 1, man. I'm going to say God, universe, creator, higher power, whatever it is that you believe in.
Yeah.
I think, without my faith, none of this would kind of be possible. So learning to have that, working towards creating that strong foundation with God and really working towards strengthening whatever your relationship may be with him. I think that's like the number 1 tool out of the toolbox, is like putting your trust and your faith in someone that's higher than yourself.
How were you able to do that? Like you said, you wanted to be intentional and put more into that.
Yeah,
what were
bro.
some of the things you did to be intentional with it?
Oh yeah, pray. I think the power of prayer is real, and meditation. So I think I think prayer is a form of meditation. So my grandma, she is a very super religious, black woman.
Love grandmas.
So she really helped introduce me to faith, helped me introduce me to God. So kind of just having to step out on my own, though, and take that journey for myself and figure out what that relationship with God looks like to me necessarily, because it looks different for everybody. But I think doing the research on my own, I was kind of raised in church a little bit, you know what I'm saying? So I already had that foundation, and like I knew how to seek God, but I had to do it on my own terms, and when I was ready.
Yeah.
So
when you're ready. Everything you do in life, you have to do it for yourself. Period. You got to do it for yourself.
So I pray, bro. Like I pray multiple times a day. So I pray and I let go, and let the creator, the universe, do its thing at the end of the day. So I would say that's like number 1. That's top priority. I would say therapy. So what therapy really helped me do was it helped me unpack a lot of things that I was going through, and it helped me identify and put a name to it. You know what I'm saying? Because we go through a lot of these things, but we don't really know what it is that we're going through. And therapy helps you put a name and identify it, but it also gives you the tools. It gives you the resources of how to get through this, so the next time you don't. And really just having that unbiased environment to be vulnerable, to be expressive, has really helped me, from somebody that understands. You know what I'm saying? Like they're licensed, they're trained in this, so they get it. But most importantly is having a culturally competent therapist. You know what I'm saying? Like a therapist that looks like me. I think finding that is very beneficial as well. Third, I would say creating on whatever realm that looks like, but tapping into your passion and figuring out what your purpose is. I think our purpose lies in our passion. So I challenge everybody to really create a list or figure out things that they're passionate about, because somewhere within that, your purpose lies. And, you know, we're all trying to walk a purposeful life, a life of purpose and figuring meaning and figuring out what that is. And I feel like finding that and figuring out what that looks like for you is beneficial to our mental health as well, because a lot of people deal with mental health issues because they don't know themselves. They don't know what they're out here doing or what they want to do or who they're trying to become. So figuring out what your passions and help you tremendously with identifying your purpose, and that can help you with creating and bringing something to the universe and you know, being able to be of service to other people.
The 3 tools to help him through his isolations, man. I really want to thank you for coming out. The episode is not going to be out by the time, but he has an event tomorrow as well that he's going to be doing here. So he's going to be on another panel. I'll be there, excited to see. Before we wrap up, I just want to give you the space to go ahead and like drop any tags, your nonprofit, your social media, your clothing brand, anything and everything you want to go out there and share. Just go ahead and drop your tags for everybody.
Yeah, definitely tap in with the Better Days Project on Instagram at the.betterdaysproject. You guys can follow me on Instagram at mhill.10. And you can also search us up on YouTube, either the Better Days Project, or you can search up Real Convos, Better People. Once again, Mekhi Hill. You can search me wherever. You could probably find a few things. But
hopefully they all good,
yeah,
man.
they all good, man. They all good. But
yeah,
Chauncey, I appreciate you, bro. You know what I'm saying? Keep doing what you're doing. This is a great platform. Keep having these uncomfortable conversations, man. You're doing a lot of healing. It's great to see other black men doing this work as well, bro. So I appreciate you for sharing space as well.
Yes, sir, man. Appreciate it, man. Yes, sir.